Let me be the second to wish you Merry Christmas, since the Master of Ceremonies tonight was the first to wish you Merry Christmas. And to thank all of you from Exuma, especially the Deputy Prime Minister, and especially on this occasion, Jen Dames, for inviting me once again to be here on this Christmas occasion with so many friends and loved ones. And what makes it really special is to see so many children around, because that's the future of Exuma, and we've got to do all that we can to provide a safe and protective environment for them. Good to see Reverend John Roll and Mrs. Roll, and my two, I think I can get away with saying old friends, Jenny Cattell and Lori, they're sitting at the back. Merry Christmas to you. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here and to celebrate with you this for the second time in Forbes Hill. I have to apologize to the people of Roll Town to miss tomorrow night because of another engagement in a far-off country. But I wanted to be sure that I didn't miss being in Exuma at this time, as I usually am on the first weekend in the month of December. And traditions are important. Just a few minutes ago, we remembered those people who were not with us, who are not with us today or tonight, who had been with us last year. And part of my day was spent today because of the exigencies of my job, missing the funerals of two important and well-known Exumians. And so I went by to pay tribute to them in the respective cemeteries, C.P. Morley and Clifford Strawn. And so I remember them today, and I remember way back, Laurie and I were talking just before this ceremony of all the giants who are friends who have passed through, those who represented this constituency who are no longer with us, like George Smith and Livingston Coakley, and all the giants. I was coming through the airport in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the man who was driving me to the gate to fly to Exuma asked me if I knew of a restaurant in Exuma called Kermit's. And I said I knew it very well, and I intended to eat there as soon as I landed. And he told me the story of how he used to fly to Haiti as a missionary, and they always stopped here on the DC-3 to get fuel, avgas, on their way to Haiti and back, and how he spent 3 wonderful days here when the engine broke down, fixing the engine and going to Kermit's to have something to eat. That's the kind of reputation that Exuma has. And I can tell you, in the 10 days or so that I've been overseas, I don't think one person asked me anything about any indictment. Not important. What is important is everywhere I went, people said, "You're from the Bahamas?" I went there. I had a good time. I ran into Mike Pence, the former US Vice President, in the airport in Washington, D.C., and he told me that he and his wife enjoyed their honeymoon in Nassau. And I recalled how Shinzo Abe, the deceased Prime Minister of Japan, told me the same thing. He had spent his honeymoon in Nassau. And Joe Biden, of course, found his first wife at the British Colonial in Nassau. That's the reputation the Bahamas has. So on this Christmas occasion, that's the message I want you to embrace, that we have a good country, a strong and resilient people, and we're going to fight to maintain that reputation. I'll leave you with this story because stories make up the traditions. Mr. Member of Parliament, your predecessor pretended to be a good softball player and invited me to the softball game at the softball park, which is just outside of Georgetown. So I was telling the police aides as I was coming here that I learned something called the mercy rule one night at that game. They asked me what was the mercy rule. I said, well, Mr. Moss was playing with the BPL, then called BEC team, and they were playing Customs. And Customs racked up 38 runs to 0, something like in the second inning. And so the game was ended by something called the mercy rule. They had mercy on Mr. Moss and his team. So, pleasant memories. But that's Exuma to me, and all the kind people that I've met. I'm truly grateful to be in Forbes Hill tonight, because we're truly grateful and pleased and honored to have as our Deputy Prime Minister and your representative, Chester Cooper. He's from this settlement, and I hope every little boy and girl knows that one day you can come from Forbes Hill and become Deputy Prime Minister of our country. That's the country we come from. And I think that we ought to applaud that fact and be thankful for that. So, Deputy Prime Minister, thanks for having me in your settlement, and please come at this time and address your constituents.
Forbes Hill. Good to be home. Good to see everybody. I am still often amazed that when I come to Forbes Hill, the